and I'm not picking on sports, but people who are obsessed about, say, an individual, right? An athlete.
I think you should just call them out, Jeff. Just be aggressive.
And we're painting our chests.
We are?
And, you know, we're tailgating for, and again, I love sports, so I don't want to hear any hate. But when we commit all the time, money, energy, effort, we're literally celebrating other people's lives. I just think, what if you celebrated and put all that effort, energy, thought, intentionality into your own life?
Welcome to the Maguire Enterprise Podcast.
Welcome.
With Joe and James. And Jeff will be joining shortly.
Maybe, we're not sure.
He will be. And today we're going to be talking about...
What are we talking about?
Today's actually December 28th, 2023. This episode will probably drop the first of the year. And so if you're listening to it and you haven't written out or thought about the topic, which is your goals, then you're already a little bit behind. But don't let that stop you. It's not too late to get started with your goals, to write them down, and to get specific. But we exist to help entrepreneurs and franchisees start, operate, and grow your business to become a multimillionaire. So, Joe, let's dive right in and start talking about goals. And really the first kind of thing that I want to discuss is understanding the importance of a goal. And we've talked in the past on other episodes about KPIs, key performance indicators, and things like that within your business, and how they help drive success and things and so on. But I want to talk to you and ask you about what is the importance of a goal or goals in your personal life, in your business life, your professional life, your marriage life. What is the importance, and how do we understand the importance of goals?
Sure. So I just want to start off with, let's be clear. It's the end of the year, right? You should have a good idea of where you want to be for next year. If you don't have those written out, it's okay. Some people might scramble, having ideas that they know. I'm not saying I'm one of those people who doesn't have them written out yet. I'm just saying if you didn't, maybe you were planning on taking a day or two off, ending the year to really finalize that stuff. That's totally cool as long as you set aside that time. So it's not too late.
No, it's not too late.
But you might be a little bit behind you might be if you were. I'm not saying I am, but if you were. So
that's a hypothetical. You're just saying other people, not
completely
you,
hypothetical.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I don't have the idea and the vision. They're just not written out yet.
Right. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to writing, but let's go back to what's the importance, understanding the importance of goals. What is
that? So if you don't have a goal, then you don't have a finish line. You don't have a point that you're striving for. So that could be in business. It could be in your family. It could be as a father, as a mother. It could be as a husband or a wife. It could be any of those things. And I think what we tend to get caught up in society as business owners and managers and leaders, sometimes it's just the day-to-day. It's just getting into the day-to-day. What is the day-to-day? I got to get this done. I got to get this task done. We're trying to, upload this operating system. We're trying to put whatever process through. And so you just get focused on that. And then before you know it, it's December 28th and you don't even have your goals written out for the next year. And so you're going into that year, maybe wondering where you're going to end up. It's very important to take the time to have your goals, write them out so you can see them. Now you might need to adjust them. That's okay. I mean, I know James, you've experienced that probably quite a bit. I have too, going through running a sales team, and what you think you're going to end up, you may not, you may be short, you may way overshoot what you thought you were going to get. But it's very important to have them at least written down. And I think we'll probably talk about it, but there's different categories: your personal life, your health, But what I've noticed in my extensive career of being alive is that if you don't say, I want to be at this point in 6 months, in 12 months, in 3 months, whatever that is, then you're not going to get there. You're just going to keep going. It's just going to keep being status quo. So it's very important, I think, that whatever it is, even if you only take, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those categories in life, maybe business and family and health, and you say, I want to be here by June 1st. I want to be here by September 1st. You have something to strive for. You have a goal that you're pushing for.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that the answer to that main question, or that general question, is really, a goal is, I almost want to think about it as something that's pulling you along. And we've talked about this 100 times on the podcast here. We've talked about this 100 times about your why being something that's so strong and so deep, motivating, that will get you through some of that crap. And we've got Jeff. Jeff, welcome to the show.
What up? What up?
Jeff just flew in from where? Where'd you fly in from?
I flew in from my kitchen.
So we got Jeff.
Wow.
Jeff knows what we're talking about today, so he's going to dive right in. We're just discussing the understanding and the importance of goals, Jeff. But the what I was saying there was, having a goal, and even if it's one goal, having a goal really pulls you towards something. It makes you a better individual depending on the topic that you're trying to cover. So, for example, if I'm trying to be a better high school athlete at the sport of basketball, and I'm weak in the area of the free throws, okay? My goal for that season, let's say maybe over the summer before the season starts, should be to practice my free throws. Maybe it's 15 a day, maybe it's 50 a day, depending on how good I want to be. And so you can literally take your goals to be as small or as large as you want. And that goal and deadline, we're going to talk about deadlines and writing things down. That goal and deadline is so important because now it gives you that place to pull you forward in the aspect of, okay, during the summer, I'm going to practice 50 free throws a day. And the way I'm going to measure that is I'm going to look at how many free throws I made last season versus how many I make this season. And the success, like, it is inevitable. And this is what I think if you get nothing else from this episode, and I'm going to share some of the stuff that I've written down in, I've got books from 2018. I'm going to share some of that. Feel free to, if you guys want to do that too, but success is inevitable if you have goals and deadlines. Would you guys agree or disagree with that?
Agreed.
Jeff agrees. Joe doesn't agree.
Said.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would add a little bit more.
Let me guess, a curveball.
Nope, not even a curveball. This is just an insight. So we're when you're looking at goals, right? You can have large goals and you can have kind of smaller, more achievable goals along the way. So for instance, like you just brought up, so the end goal is whatever, to have a free throw shooting percentage of 75%, or, I know all about the sports.
No, you don't.
Sporting guy.
I'm assuming that's something that, right? So that's your end game, right? That's your goal for 12 months down the road. But your short-term goal is, like you just said, to shoot 53 throws every other day. And it gives you these points. It's like your North Star. It's your compass, whatever. It gives you a guide of where you want to get. So I do think, yes, levels of success are achievable with goals, because you're going to set things and you're going to modify based off of what your goal is. And if your goal is to be a better free throw shooter, then you know what you need to do to get that done.
Yep. And that makes sense. And ultimately, that's kind of what you have to be thinking about as you look at bigger goals and so on. So Jeff, we're going to kind of move to the next topic. I'm going to send it over to you.
Let's do it.
But understanding the importance of goals, we kind of talked a little bit about that. Do you have some examples or maybe some positive illustrations of like examples of some specific goals maybe that you could share with some of the people? It doesn't need to be, you, but like I
Mhm.
just said something about the free throws, right? What are some specifics that you could share as an example?
Yeah. I mean, I won't get too vulnerable on the camera.
Do it, Jeff.
Should
No,
we get
do it.
Yeah, we
vulnerable?
don't want them to crack.
Get
Gonna get
vulnerable.
vulnerable here, people.
Okay. All right. That makes me think he's not going to get vulnerable. So
But I don't know if we talked about kind of like putting your goals in buckets, but and I want to back this up because what is the whole purpose of goals and why do we even talk about it? I know it gets people triggered sometimes when you talk about goals.
Hold on. Are you going to get triggered again? Jeff's going to get triggered again.
hey,
We're
cue
triggering people,
the cameras. Go.
but
You get pushed down the stairs into your
for
goals, Jeff.
me, goals are kind of tied to purpose. And I'll be very vulnerable. Getting very specific in writing down goals and then sticking to those goals for a full calendar year has been difficult. I'm usually the kind of guy that's got some general goals and directions, and then it's mass production and get it all done in 12 months.
Not good. That's
So it's
not
not
good,
good.
Jeff. Not
It's
good.
not specific enough. But going back to your purpose, I think purpose and goals are tied together. And so one of the areas for me, James, you asked kind of like actual tangible goals. One of the areas for me is a spiritual kind of section for my life because it's tied back to me being a Christian and God. And I think those things are ultimately the most important thing. Does it always happen for me every day, week, month, year? It is challenging at times. But so a very specific goal for me and actually for my wife and family is to really get plugged into a really great church in 2024. We were attending and a part of a great church prior, but with the business and my lifestyle, I'm traveling a lot and it's an excuse. So the goal for me, and this is just one bucket, and that's kind of the spiritual. Some people would have it faith. There's other, categories you could label this as, but is to be a part of a church and be focused and involved in that church by February 1st, 2024. And we've actually already signed up and scheduled ourselves, myself and my wife, to attend some church related classes and things to get engaged and to learn. So that's one very specific goal for me and my family that we're going to focus on early on. We've already actually scheduled it. We're committed to it. The dates, the calendar, it's already on it. But that's one specific goal for me in the spiritual or the faith kind of side of things, so.
I love it. That's great. Joe, did you schedule yourself yet for that? Because you should.
Yeah, I think I'm the one that maybe might have steered you guys down that
Oh my
direction.
I
goodness.
don't
Oh,
know. It's been
okay,
on my mind
Joe.
for a
Yeah,
while.
so listen, let's not like bicker and argue about the facts. So on that note, I think let's talk about those buckets. I think that's a good component of kind of establishing where you want to set your goals, right? So number one, let's say financial. You can have a financial goal, right? Could be um, give a more percentage to your 401k or establish a certain amount of savings. You could have, a health bucket. I want to do A, B, and C, eat better or lose weight, gain weight, whatever the process is. Start doing cardio. That's one of mine.
Twice. You
That's
gotta,
one of
you get a
mine.
little cut.
As you roll your eyes
Yeah.
in disdain.
Yes, not my favorite thing to do.
You gotta embrace the
It's a good
suck.
goal.
So you got you've got financial, you've got health, you've got spiritual or faith, you've got maybe a business goal, right? What else can you guys think of?
So,
Most
Well,
people have like 6 to 7 of these that you can put goals in.
buckets, yeah.
Um,
And this is good. And so one thing that helped me as I was kind of learning and growing with writing goals and things. And we're gonna go through what we call the art of setting goals. We're gonna talk specifically about kind of how to set them, what they should look like. But this kind of all ties into that, Joe. I call it the 7 F's, and this is for me, the seven
oh,
F's.
wow. Okay.
If
Sure.
you want to write this down, Joe, the 7 F's are for me, and it doesn't have to be in a
Yeah.
specific order,
Oh, sure.
but I have it as faith, family, fitness, firm, meaning business, my business firm, financials, meaning personal, and then fun and for others. So seven,
mm,
seven? Yeah, 7 F's. And those are kind of my buckets, right? So those are my buckets. Now you could have one thing there, you could have two things. When I was starting to learn how to set goals and start to achieve them, it was much smaller than that. It was like 3 different buckets. It was like my faith, my family, and work, business. Like working out and fitness and stuff, that was just natural, just be in the
he's
gym, blah,
naturally
blah, blah. But
gifted in the gym.
right, yeah. But now it's important to kind of have those buckets. But yeah, Joe, so there could be others, right? There's plenty of other buckets that you could have. There could be an education bucket, right? There could be, for me, I actually split up fitness into physical fitness and mind fitness, so mental. So for me, it's reading some books, listening to a couple podcasts, like specifically doing those types of things. Um, so I break up fitness into those two different kind of categories as well. So that could be something that that other people do.
Okay. With you, when you're setting your goals, do you do 6 month? Do you do,
No,
12?
I don't.
What do you
I don't
what
have
do you set?
I don't have a specific. So, for example, looking at my 2024 goals right now, um, I have a fitness goal of. This is kind of a family fitness goal.
Family
It's been a
fitness
while
goal.
since I bench press, but I want to be able to bench press 225 by April 15th.
Okay.
Okay, I think you guys understand the meaning behind that. Um,
Yeah, it means you need to get strong.
Okay, relax. But so no, I don't do 6 month. This month, this is for me. This is an annual sheet. I fill this out at the beginning of or at the end of the year, focused on 2024. And to be honest, I'll write new goals throughout the year. I will, as I scratch stuff off and as my mind starts to work and I start to see things come to fruition, I'm going to add things to this. And I don't just take things away. I look back at my 2023 goals and let's see. I wrote down for fun, I wanted to travel 10 times. I don't think I traveled 10 different times to 10 different states or 10 different places. I wanted to find another organization that Angela and I could support or donate to. That didn't happen. I didn't do that. So I'm gonna leave those there. I'm gonna add those to this 2024, and I'm gonna put a closer date on it to actually build some pressure so that I can start to research that type of stuff. But let's talk about the art of setting goals and kind of like talk about the characteristics. Who knows the SMART? You guys know the SMART.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, you've heard of it. So SMART, if you haven't heard of it, stands for specificity or something specific, something measurable, something attainable, something relevant, and then time bound. And
Time bound.
I think, and I don't hear what you guys say, but I think that time bound, I think that goal deadline is probably one of the most important.
Time and being
I think so.
specific would probably be the attainable. I don't really, not super concerned if it's attainable or not, but being specific, so it's really clear 3D in your head, in your brain, in your mind, so you can wrap your thoughts around it, your beliefs around it, and then the time, because that's pressure. But I think everybody's different too, though.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, but you need to give yourself. I think probably timeliness is to me the most important one. You can adjust that, but if you don't, like I said, a year. If my goal is to whatever increase revenue by 100% in
That's
my business,
aggressive. Love
or
that.
increase whatever, but I just say that's my goal. But if I don't attach a time to it, it then just becomes kind of this background noise. And before you know it, a year has gone by. Well, how much did we? Oh, we increased, 10%. All right. Well, we know long term we want to increase 100%. Okay. Well, we got time. So I think establishing a timeliness, a time frame to the goal is important because you either achieved it or you didn't. If you need to bump that out 3 months, bump that out further because you're in the right direction. But I mean, you guys know, when you're up against the clock, that's when you do some of your best work. So having a time frame, giving yourself a time frame, again, make sure it's realistic, that it's a, a a number that can be achieved. I think that R is actually realistic, not relevant. Um, you
Not what
need to make
ChatGPT said.
Okay, well, that's where the problem. ChatGPT is being sued by the New York Times, just so you
That's
know.
not
Okay, well,
concerning at all, actually.
Well,
I
that's
question the
it.
relevance of the New
That
York
Yeah, I
Times.
think it's fun to watch them
I would
both go
actually like to
after
see
it.
ChatGPT sue the New York Times.
Yeah. Actually, it would be great to see ChatGPT be its own lawyer against the New York
Yeah, it would win.
Times.
Yeah, except it's plagiarizing from the New York Times in its case. So, anyway, I think the time frame is extremely important when you're giving yourself a goal, whether, like I said, it's a fitness goal or even for you, like your fun category, right? 12 months. Well, I want to go to 10 places. Okay. Well, if you don't give yourself a time frame, it's, oh, 4 months went by. I went to one place. Oh, another 4 months went by. I went to another place. So I think when you establish your goal, give yourself a time frame. You've got flexibility with that time frame, but that's going to be one of the ways you measure the success of achieving that goal um, as you're moving throughout your year.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Um, and I think so. I struggle with that because I don't necessarily need to put a 2 month deadline. Like there's some specific goals that I'm like, I absolutely, like, for example, the fitness stuff. Like I want to do 225 or I want to gain X amount of pounds by a certain date. That I think is important for me. On the other aspect of traveling, I know traveling is going to happen naturally for me. I don't have to specifically schedule that out. And so I think for me, it's a little bit different. I don't necessarily struggle with the timeline. If I see something written down, like I look at the goals that I wrote out for 2023, and I would say probably 75% of this 2 page, 1.5 page sheet I probably completed,
Hmm.
which is decent.
That's pretty solid.
Right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
other
not
thing
bad.
that I would say too is when you're learning and you're starting to understand goals and the power of it. And I want to maybe transition a little bit to that, unless you guys have some more specifics on the art of setting goals. We could definitely explore some ideas on outcomes and things like that, achievement. But um, the point of some of this as you're starting and learning is it doesn't need to be these big lofty goals. It can be as simple as the first month of January, you just want to consistently get up an hour earlier than you used to. Like it doesn't need to be you need to go save, $100,000. Doesn't need to be you need to go, crack the code for cancer. As you start learning, because you're going to get discouraged. So you got to go back to that SMART, the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, so that
Hmm.
you can start to build momentum, and you can build kind of this habit of, all right, I'm checking stuff off the list. I'm accomplishing these tasks or these goals.
And to your point too, James, I think, and I don't know if you guys touched on this, but really going back to the why and the purpose of the goal. Because that's going to make it most meaningful to you, which will make it most sticky. So,
Yep.
so why are you establishing a goal around your health? And what's the purpose? Why are you even doing that? What's the purpose
Yeah,
of it?
that's a great question. And I'm gonna answer it too, because you're right. It does go back to the purpose. The purpose is because I want to be healthy. I want to feel good so that I can be around for a long time for my family.
Okay, and
Right.
that's
That's the
that's
purpose.
really deep. So usually I think and that takes maybe some flushing out of trying to like identify the purpose and the why, but I think that's gonna, if you can marry those two, the purpose and the why, to the actual specific SMART goal, it's probably gonna stick. Should stick. Obviously, you have to build the habit, and what you were talking about is just, waking up an hour early. Well, why do you want to wake up an hour early for the first month? Like, what's the end goal? I think people have
Right.
to kind of
Yeah.
reason through that, and if you can, you have probably a greater success
Yeah.
sticking to your goal.
100%. 100%. And I think to that point, you could get specific, right? Where people talk about, oh, I want to save I want to save money. Well, why do you want to save money? Oh, for a down payment on a house. Okay, great. Down payment on a house. There's the purpose for saving that money. Okay, well, now what's the goal? All right, I want to save an extra 500 a month for the house. There you go. If you buying a house is that important to your purpose, to your goal, then you'll save that 500 a month. So that's a great call. Joe, you got some feedback on that?
No,
No.
no. I think as far as that goes, I think Jeff's kind of, hit it out of the park. To use the baseball analogy, that I'm a big fan of sports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gotta have a reason. All your goals should be tied to a why, to a reason.
Mhm.
It really depends on what the goal is, whether it's a business, personal, family. Some are going to be deeper than others. Some may be um, objective. Could be work related. We need to get whatever cogs down by 10%. Okay, there's an objective there that might not be as deep as a personal, like you want to be healthy, you want to live longer, to be around for your wife, kids, grandkids, etc. Um, but I just think it all still ties into that SMART component, right? What is the purpose of it? What's the time frame of it? Is it a deep goal? Is it a business goal? All of these things come into play, but that's where it's nice because you've got, if you break it up, you've got those kind of buckets, right? My family goal may be very different and motivate me in a very different way than, say, a business
Mhm.
goal, or a financial goal. Could be like James said, saving for a house, or we need to pay off debt in the business so that we have more revenue, more income to use on growth. Okay, that's kind of more of a tactical, could be more of a tactical than say an emotional one, where it's some the goal specifically related to your family or your faith. So it really comes down to what the goals are, because there's going to be different whys that will be different motivating factors for each one.
And that's the key, Joe. That's the key on how to write your goals. So this little next section that we want to talk about is how to write them. And we kind of have a 4 to 5 little step process, and we talked a little bit about some of it, but the why here is in step 2, which is incredible. So this kind of like step by step process is a really good way of starting with some of your goals. So the first step here is identifying like the area you want to be in, maybe that focus area. So I told you that I have 7. I have 7 F's or 7 focus areas that I like to focus on. And then once you pinpoint what are some of those areas, maybe it's your health, maybe it's your profession or your business, maybe it's your faith, maybe it's your family, whatever that kind of bucket, that overarching bucket is, you need to identify that first. So once you identify that, then you need to determine, the second step is what you want to achieve and why. It's like we just talked about, Jeff just talked about, it has to be attached to something. If you want to lose 15 pounds of weight, 20 pounds of weight, why do you want to lose that weight? Is it because you want to feel better? Is it because you want to...
So we can intimidate people?
You want to intimidate people?
No.
You want to be a wrestler? You want to get to the UFC? Like, what's the why behind that goal? Right? Because that's what's going to pull the individual forward. And then the third step, and we can break these down, talk about these here in a second. Third step is the SMART, right? SMART goal: specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, relevant, and time bound.
Or realistic.
Relevant,
right?
or realistic. Yep. You can change that. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So that's when you're going to actually say, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, great. So it's specific. 10 pounds is the specific. The measurement, right, is 10. Is it attainable? If I'm 250 pounds, is it attainable for me to lose 10 pounds? If I'm 100 pounds, which that would be really tiny, I'd be very small. Is it actually attainable that I could really lose in a healthy way 10 pounds? Probably not. Right? So you need to realistically think about the goal that you're talking about. Like, there's just certain things that you're bound to that just sometimes, aren't realistic. So they've got to be realistic. And then you need to set a deadline to that. And then number 4 is break down the larger goals into actionable items. Okay. So here's where it gets really specific. And I'd love to hear some of your guys' feedback on this stuff. But as if I want to lose 10 pounds, and we could use this analogy or any analogy, I now, on step 4, I need to break that goal down into action steps. What do I need to do to actually lose the 10 pounds? Do I just need to eat healthier? Do I need to go to the gym? Do I need to cut out soda? Do I need to stop smoking? Do I need to lessen the alcohol that I'm drinking?
Crumble.
Lessen the sugar.
Is there specific...
Crumble.
Do I need to stop eating crumble? So what are those action items? Because having the goal, guys, right, is important. But then having steps to achieve and attain that goal, would you say that that's just as important or even more important?
Yeah, you have to have the physical steps tied to the actual goal. And I would say probably one of the first action items may not be, and this may confuse people, it may not be a physical step, but it's a mental belief step. Because a lot of the goals, I could go through most of my goals, and I think a lot of the reasons, and I'm just thinking of challenges or barriers, or really like the first actionable step, is a mental shift. It starts with what you believe about that specific topic or that goal. If you believe right, you'll behave right. And so the action steps are super critical, because then it calls you out and says you got to do these 4 or 5 things. But one of the action steps may be getting your head right first. And so that's just, I don't know why that came to me, but because a lot of times for me, I guess tend to think of always physical movement or action or behavior, but it starts really in my head. And I notice sometimes if there's friction, it's because my head ain't right.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think you're absolutely correct. And that's really a mindset shift. And we could get into a whole nother episode on mindset, mental attitude, habit forming, and so on. but I totally agree that there is a shift that needs to happen. There's a mental, a mental shift that needs to happen. But you're right. There has to be those action steps to actually move towards that
Yeah.
ultimate goal. And that's why I said in the very beginning is that success, and everyone defines it differently, is achievable and attainable, and it's inevitable that anyone can achieve a certain level of success, again, their own definition, if they have goals in place and they follow through with those action steps. That I truly believe that. I truly believe that everyone can achieve a level of success with goals and action items. Number 5, though, on that how to write goals is create a timeline or a deadline for each goal. And again, that's in the SMART. That's in the SMART acronym. There is to have that deadline. And again, just talking about the deadline, it really gives you the pressure. That's the whole purpose of it, is to apply some pressure to what you're trying to achieve or what you're not potentially going to achieve. And I would say, if we want to flip this, I would say that failure is not always a bad thing when it comes to goals.
Oh, okay. That
Joe?
seemed like a final comment.
We agree.
So again, when you're setting these goals, it's I mean, these aren't, hopefully not life or death type goals. I know in business, the leadership team that I'm on, we have goals set quarterly, and then kind of some annualized goals, and um, knowing that we're striving for them. If we fall short a little bit, okay, that then kind of inspires some questions. Okay, well, what did we do? Why did we do it? Was it a good goal to have written? And sometimes you'll find out shortly through the process that what you thought was a good goal, that was achievable, or that was necessary, um, 2 months into the year, maybe on the business side, oh, it's not, or something shifted, something changed, and now what we thought was a goal, or what we thought needed to get done, will now become secondary because something has shifted in the business, in the market, things like that. So yeah, I don't think you're writing these with like they have to be achieved. Um, I think you write them to steer your year, to steer your life. Um, Speaking of like weight, gaining weight or losing weight or getting healthier, those things can be measured. That's very easy to kind of measure. I gained weight, I lost weight. You're watching calories or whatever it is, you can count those things and you can see, yes, I did it or I didn't do it. What do I need to change? Some of the other goals, they're not as easy to kind of keep track of. And so as you go through the process and you give yourself that timeline, let's say you don't achieve it, again, you assess and say, okay, what am I doing? What's the next step? What did I fall short on? Okay, so we're going to bump this goal out 3 months. That's not the end of the world. Um, so I think just keeping that in mind too. No, failing to get to whatever that goal was, it may push you off, especially if it's a financial goal. Let's say you're trying to save, for a down payment. Well, if you don't get it, then all you've done is push that goal off. How do we get to that point? So I think it's a good time to assess. And again, to what Jeff said, with kind of getting your mind right. If you set yourself a goal that you don't actually think is achievable, well, then it's not going to be achievable. And so you want to make sure that those things are achievable, so that when you do hit maybe a failure point, or a point where I don't want to say failure, but maybe you don't hit the deadline. Okay, that we're going to bump that out. I need an extra month. I'm on the right track. I'm so close. I just need an extra month. I'm going to achieve that in a month, and then I'm going to set a new goal or whatever that is.
But let me pause you, Joe. What about if we keep pushing this out a month, and then another month?
So then we need
another month.
So then we need to have you threw a curveball in there. You finally threw that curveball.
Curveball.
So then when that is happening, then you need to assess, is this a realistic goal, or is this even a viable goal? And that's where, for instance, in business, you may have set a goal. I'm not saying this has happened. You may have set a goal, but it probably has happened in January that you think is a realistic number. Let's use
50 million,
COGS. Let's just say you're trying to get your COGS down to what's a good percentage?
18%.
18%. So
pretty
let's say you
good.
say we want to get to 18. We want to get to 18%, and you're basing that off of an industry average. Okay. But then let's say you guys, us, whoever, your business maybe is new to New England, and New England has some different variables, maybe some different barometric pressures that affect the way
Oh,
you cook cookies.
yeah.
Who knew? So you might be going off of an industry standard or a business standard,
Mm-hmm.
maybe from a different part of the
Mm.
country where your industry is more established and or labor is cheaper and or
Mm-hmm.
they, have a longer growing season if you're in farm, something like that, where you need to assess and say, wait a minute, what did I base this off of?
Right.
Okay, we learned the number that I set wasn't realistic for me. It might be realistic for another part of
Mm-hmm.
industry. Um, same thing could be with housing. I mean, housing prices are drastically different around around the world, but around the country. Maybe you're thinking you need to save for a down payment, but you're planning on moving. Well,
Right.
those numbers could be
Yep.
different if you're planning on moving down south from the north. So those are just things where it's like, at some point, to your point, James, you need to look and say, wait a minute, I've pushed this off 3 months. Is this a realistic goal? Like, I feel like it is, but maybe I need to modify
Mm.
something. Maybe the 18% is not a real number, and a real number is 22, because for the last 6 months, you've been at 24, 23, 22, 23, and you're really stretching yourself to hit an unrealistic goal. So I think it's important, again, just having a timeline gives you the perspective to be able to look at it and say, yep, this goal is realistic. We fell short because whatever, we had too many call outs. And so we didn't hit a certain number. So we need to fix the call outs. That's going to get us to our number. So having that SMART acronym really is important, because if you follow it, it is going to, I want to say it's kind of self-correcting. If you're using it to analyze your goals throughout the process, you're going to say, wait a minute, this was pretty good, but it wasn't timely. I didn't give
Yep.
myself enough time, or it wasn't measurable. I thought it was, but it's not. I'm dealing with a number that's not measurable, so I got to modify that. So I mean, if I'm being honest, I think I hit the curveball out of the park. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm glad you think you're honest, but yeah, I think you did okay. At least it was a line drive.
You
for
covered it
sure.
all.
It was probably a line. Yeah, it was a line drive. So Joe, to that point, and Jeff, I'm gonna throw it around the horn over to you, but let's talk about the objectives or overcoming challenges with goals. So some people, they kick it down the road. Oh, I didn't get it this month. I didn't get it last month. So just, screw it. Goals are just, they're not for me. I don't have goals, right? What do you say to that individual? What do you, how do you stay motivated, right? For setting goals and keeping goals?
Yeah. So there's a few things here. One, it goes back to the why and the purpose, which takes a lot of thinking and prep, and it's not easy to do. A lot of the things that I've written could probably be rewritten if I really look at it the lens of the why and the purpose. But if you have a super deep why and purpose behind your goal, that's going to keep you on track
Mm-hmm.
for a decent amount, but it's not going to fully get you there.
So the purpose and the why, you would say, is top of mind, really important.
I would say that's number one. Then obviously having very clearly written SMART goals, written where you can access them consistently all the time. So I write them on Mem, which came from James. It's a
Mem's
really
good.
great digital kind of notes with some AI built into it. There's an app. So that's where my goals will live for 2024. But having easy access where you can review and look at them every day. So it's purpose and why, write really clear specific SMART goals, review them daily and more than once. And again, I'm not preaching at anybody. This is things that we all need to do if we really want to execute on the goals. You got to review them daily. You may even need to rewrite them and just write and write. You probably need an accountability partner or system or group that can keep you accountable to those goals. I've never done that before. I probably should. I probably need someone or people to keep me accountable, you accountable, right? So that will help keep you from going off the rails. And then I would probably say expect failure and setbacks, guaranteed. 100%, it's going to happen. You're going to miss the mark. You're going to fail. You're going to get derailed with your goals. But you need to continue forward and fulfill those goals. So I would say those are probably like the 4 or 5 things that will help you stay true, because it's building a habit too. Like you do have to build a habit around these things. It's just like when you're trying to lose weight in the new year, it's typically you'll see a high usage of people committed to health, right, for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, and then it dies off. So building a habit to review, commit, get your team around you to support you will help sustain the failures that are going to happen when it comes to trying to fulfill your goals. So yeah, those are just a few things that come to my mind around trying to stay on track.
Yeah. Joe, anything on the challenges and staying motivated? You did nail that out of the park, but anything else on that aspect?
No, I think it is a little tough because it's something that you got to want. And so you can't force people
Yeah.
into goal setting.
Sure.
You can force yourself because it is work in the beginning, but it's just like anything. Once it becomes habitual, it's not work. It's just part of the process. And that took me a while to learn that, with having goals just in general. And I would say probably for the, even through my mid to late 20s, it was more of kind of just a survival game of let's get through today and this year. And it really wasn't until I was in my 30s where I think I really realized the importance of, hey, wait a minute, I'm in my 30s and yeah, I'm doing okay. Like I've got a career going, but I don't have this, the specifics of where I want to end up. Like, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like when I'm 60? What do I want it to look like when I'm 40? And I know, it's kind of a cliche phrase, but everybody overestimates what they can do in 1 year and underestimates what they can do in 5. And I think you guys, all of us can attest to that of what has been accomplished in each of our personal lives and business lives in the last 2 to 3 years. I think if you look back and talk to each one of us 3 years ago, I don't think any of us would have had kind of any idea where we'd be at now. Maybe an idea, but not a true revelation of, oh wow, okay, look what I've accomplished. Look, I mean, like James, you've moved like 14 times,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Acquired things, sold things, you've started businesses. Jeff, you've got, you've also moved. I mean, I guess we've all moved numerous times. And I think if you don't allow yourself to sit down, clear your mind, write goals, whatever they are, you're going to look back and say, wow, that 5 years went fast. And I'm kind of in the exact same spot I was 5 years ago. So it's really the mindset of choosing to start with, where do I want to be in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? What do I want my career to look like? Because if you don't have an end game, you'll wake up and it'll be 5 years down the road and you'll be doing the same job you did and you'll be in the same physical shape, the same physical health, the same mental health. You won't have expanded. I know I last year I did a whole lot of reading. That was one of my goals.
You crushed it.
You did
I
do
did,
some
you know, and
reading. You
I
did some
did.
reading. You did quite a few
I did. I
books.
did. I did do some reading and I enjoyed that. I used to read a lot, and just with life and kids and everything, I got away from that. And now it's part of my day, you know. So to say I want to read 12 books again in 2024, one a month, that doesn't even, it's not even really a goal. It's not even worth writing down
Right.
at this point
Right.
because
The
it's
habit.
just something that I've incorporated. So
Good habit.
write the goals out, you know, get your mind frame around, get your mindset around having a goal and writing goals.
Yep.
And it will become habit. It will just become something that, listen, as I'm thinking about this podcast, we've talked about a lot of stuff that sounds like work, writing stuff down. And James was talking about having pages
Mm.
of
Yeah.
goals that he wrote down.
Okay,
I
it
mean,
wasn't. It's not that much. It's
it
double
just
space.
sounds,
It's
I'm tired.
double
I'm tired
space.
just thinking about it. It sounds
It's
exhausting.
it's 24-point double space.
Exactly.
There's
That's what I'm talking about. So
only four goals on it, and I only
sounds like
completed
it's a
3
lot
of
of work.
them.
Yeah. Sounds like they weren't, you know, achievable. So, that's all. I think I would encourage everybody, write some goals down. If you haven't done it before in your life, start small. Start with some financial goals. Start with, you know, some family goals or fitness goals, whatever it is. Write them down in a place where you can see them. I keep mine on the back of one of my cabinets. So when I open it up, they're right there, and I check them off as I go through them, and then I'll add new
Hmm.
ones. And that's just kind of part of the routine. Like Jeff said, you got to look at them. You got to see them. They got to be in front of you. Um, and when you can see them and they're written down somewhere and you've made them known, you've told family, friends, spouse, whatever it is, there's a little bit of accountability in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would encourage you, set them, talk about them, let people know what they are, because there's some accountability in that, which puts a little pressure on,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I know I have 6 months to whatever, save X amount of dollars. Well, maybe I'm going to stop going out to eat as much
Mm-hmm.
or spending money on whatever activity because I know on, you know, June 30th, people are going to be asking me if I achieve that goal,
Right.
whether it's a spouse or family or whatever it is. So, you
Yeah.
know, I think the more you do it and make it part of your process, just like anything that's habitual, it's not work anymore. It's tough in the beginning. Those first couple months might be a little tough. Or in James's case, you know, it probably took him 6 months to write those 4 pages of goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's where you put the work in, and then it becomes much less.
Yep. And then you just do the plan.
Well,
Okay. So kind of in closing, oh Jeff,
well, yeah, I
you got
just
something?
wanted to touch on what
Yeah.
Joe said, and this, I think about this a lot. You know, we got to go to the sports arena because, and there's nothing wrong with sports. I love playing sports. I love being athletic and moving around. But I just find it interesting, the obsession around professional sports. And I get it, it's super impressive to watch really talented people perform. But I wonder if everyone, and I'm not picking on sports, but people who are obsessed about, say, an individual, right, an athlete,
I think you should just call him out, Jeff. Just be aggressive here.
and we're painting our chests,
We are.
and you know, we're tailgating for, and again, I love sports, so I don't want to hear any hate. But when we commit all the time, money, energy, effort, like we're literally celebrating other people's lives. I just think, what if you celebrated and put all that effort, energy, thought, intentionality into your
Into
own
you.
life?
Yep.
That's
And
good.
That's flipping deep.
And all I'm saying is,
Yeah.
and I'm not telling you to be an egotistical maniac, but you only got one life, and it's pretty freaking quick.
Yep.
And so if you pour into your life through purpose and intentionality, what Joe was talking about, when you're not drifting, and we don't have it all down, we're just trying to scratch the surface here. But you can do some pretty incredible things for others, for yourself, for your family, for the kingdom. But if you wander through life and you put all your energy and effort and cheering on other people and not your own legacy, you know, I just think about it a lot.
Yeah. I think that's huge.
So I think the
I
phrase
think,
is,
and
you got to be a champion of yourself.
yeah,
Oh,
that's good.
okay.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Say that again. What's that? What's the phrase, Jeff?
You have to be a champion of yourself.
I like
I
it.
feel like
I
I'm going to
think
make
that's
a
huge.
clothing line out of being a
Yeah.
champion of yourself. And then,
You should call it, champion. That would be.
I don't think you can
no,
do that.
I
I think there's already a champion.
maybe I'll buy the
But kind
champion
of,
brand.
so I love, I love what you said, Jeff. And kind of wrapping up here, I want you guys real quick to think about 2 books, one each. Think about a resource that really impacted you with goals, really impacted you with maybe how you set them. For me, it was Think and Grow Rich, and that really transformed the way I think about business, the way I think about life in general, the way I think about achieving and accomplishing tasks and things. And I just want to talk about this for a quick minute. You heard Jeff say it, you heard Joe say it, and I'm saying it now too because I was going to say it before them, but they said it, which is great, is they have a location that they can read their goals on a daily basis. And in the book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about manifestation and people, this could be witchcraft. It could not be. This could be God's will, could not be God's will. I think about it in the aspect of, if we have something in front of us on a daily basis or a regular basis, the likelihood of us accomplishing that task or accomplishing that goal or seeing that thing come to fruition, I believe is a lot more likely than us not seeing it on a regular basis. And so, for example, I've got a book here. This is a 3-ring binder that I wrote back in 2016, when I first started kind of going out on my own. And in that book, I wrote a couple specific goals. Some of them were really outlandish.
It's good.
But there was 2 specific ones that I remember. One of them's already been accomplished, and that was owning multiple properties. And that was accomplished this year. I wrote this back in 2016 and have been looking at it since 2016. And I'm not saying that because I want you to, pat me on the back or because I have a big ego. I'm telling you that when you put your mind to something and you consistently read it and look at it, it will happen. The other one that is a little bit bigger, and I had no clue, and that's the other part of Napoleon Hill's book, is he talks about, you don't necessarily know all the time how you're going to accomplish that goal.
Yep.
And so the goal here that I haven't accomplished, that I'm close, is I wanted to be a cash millionaire by the age of 33. And I'll be 33 in April of 2024. And if some things line
33.
up, that no, I'm only 32. Nice try, buddy. Nice try.
Wow.
So my point is if some things line up, that's actually going to be a reality. And when I wrote that down, I wasn't even making 6 figures at the time. I was barely making 60,000 a year.
Yep.
And so my point to this is getting your mental state, understanding your purpose, understanding your why, figuring those things out. I didn't know that in 2016. I didn't know what I was going to be doing in 2023, 2024. But as you start growing and thinking about goals and thinking about motivation and thinking about what you want for your family, a better life, where you want your kids to really go to school, the vacations that you want to take, the vehicles you want to drive, the churches you want to donate to, the foundations that you want to lift up and start and fund, you start thinking bigger about those things, stuff starts to fall in place because you're taking action, you're accomplishing your goals, you're meeting the right people, you're getting excited about life again, instead of going to the sporting event, drinking a 32 pack and just getting hammered and vomiting later that day, cheering on the other guys, cheering on people that don't give 2 craps about you. You need to start thinking about yourself. And yes, I am talking to you who are listening to the episode. You need to start thinking about yourself. So I think about that on a regular basis, about writing your goals down and looking at them every single day. Because if we don't look at them, it's very unlikely that they're going to happen. So I'm going to end with that. My book that I would highly recommend is Think and Grow Rich. Joe, you've read it. Jeff, you've read it. It is an incredible book. That's probably my top one book for everybody that they should read over time. Joe, what's your book? What's your number
I'm
one?
gonna get my book.
I don't.
He didn't think. Come on, Joe. Really? Are you?
I did.
Me?
I'm trying to think of all the
Oh
books.
my gosh! You read
I had
12.
18 last.
You read 18 books last year, and you can't think of
I mean,
one book to help people with their goals. One.
with their goals. I
Oh
mean,
my
no, there
gosh.
was a lot of spiritual books, which was one of my goals.
Okay.
I read through the Bible again, which is a great book to go over your goals.
Okay, a lot of wisdom.
Jeff,
there.
help me out. Jeff, bail me out here. I'm sweating. I
actually
can't think of
cannot
the
believe
books.
this. I literally
read.
gave you 3 minutes to think about it.
I did read Think and Grow Rich. That was the first book. I read that back in January. And I found components of it very insightful, given that it's like 100-year-old book.
It's incredible.
So it's Think and Grow Rich. I would say definitely.
You literally
definitely
stole
look into
that from
book.
me because you didn't have one. So
Yes,
incredible.
books, bro.
Okay, skipping Joe. He needs to work on his goals.
No, this right here, Stephen Covey, man. This book definitely is what
7
set me
Habits
up.
of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, business owner under Planet Fitness back in 2020. Not 2020, 2000, probably 13. I was probably 23, 24, sent me the book. It's all beat up now. It's all falling apart. But I had never read anything like that. And it talked about the 7 habits of what highly effective people do. And its circle of influence. And I think the biggest thing that hit me was talking about when you die and the legacy and what do you want people to say. I think he actually says in the book for you to write your I don't know if it's your eulogy, really to write
your eulogy.
Yep. And it just really just totally at 24 years old. I mean, 24-year-olds aren't really thinking about dying. And it just totally just brought some amazing thought I had never thought about before. And it really started to shape my mind about goals, purpose, what am I focusing on, and then how to sharpen your value. So when you do die, it was well worth it.
I love it.
You know?
I love it. What do you leave you with this before we end? What do you want written on your tombstone when you die? Because it could be tomorrow, could be next week, could be next year. What do you want your tombstone to say? And I don't mean, Joe Maguire loved by his family.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Joe Maguire going to be remembered for?
Either a stud or a dud. And we should plug Art Williams. Let's drop that. Maybe we drop that video in the link because he talks about that at the end too.
Yeah, Art Williams, incredible. All right, folks, listen, thanks for listening and watching this episode here on goals. Again, it is 2024. We're excited about this year. A lot that we're going to be doing with new business ventures that we're starting and getting involved in. We're super excited for it. Can't wait to see how it turns out. Don't forget to write your goals. It's not too late. Again, thank you. Share this with somebody who needs to think about their goals, write their goals down, and we will catch you all on the next episode. Peace.
See you in 2024.